How's it going, guys? This is Al. Once again, it's week 7. We're going to go over an NFL first look on DraftKings. That means that, guys, it's earlier than usual. It is 7:45 in the morning right here on Monday morning here in Los Angeles. I'm going to try and take a first look at first pass at this DraftKings lineup. This is not a final lineup. This is not a lineup that you're going to probably want to play on Sunday because a lot of things are going to change through practice reports on Wednesday, Thursday, Friday. I'm coming out with a podcast and an article on Thursday. We do another stream on Friday with a question and answer period for an hour where my Twitch subs can go talk to me and ask questions for an hour. And then obviously the Anti-Tinkercast, the last 45 minutes before lock, also right here on the Twitch channel. You can find a link for all of that and all my other socials down below. Click read more on the description. You'll find links to all those different places, and hopefully we'll see you there as well. If you're just a YouTube viewer who has only seen videos on YouTube, thank you very much. I appreciate you guys. We've reached over 13,000 subscribers on this channel because of your support, and it really does mean a lot to me. If you're new, thank you for finding the channel. I would love for you to show up for the rest of the videos as well. Click that subscribe button, make sure you ring the notifications bell, and let's see if we can get over 2,000 likes on this video. Another project for you guys. I asked for 1,200 last week. You guys smashed over 2,000. Let's see if we can keep that momentum going with another 2,000 likes on this video, and then we'll get to it right now. So here we go. We got quarterbacks. Jared Goff, the highest priced quarterback on the week against San Francisco, who leaks points consistently against quarterbacks. Kirk Cousins throwing the ball a ton, going up against the Jets, who have been a very surprisingly good offense with a rookie quarterback, one of the youngest in the league and the youngest ever to start a game. Kirk Cousins, not huge numbers last week, but consistently throwing the ball a ton and consistently throwing touchdowns as their running game finally got off the schneid this week in week 6, or last week in week 6, but in week 7 against the Jets on the road, think you're going to want to own the passing game there. Cousins probably a tournament play for me. You guys know I like to pay down at quarterback. Jameis Winston priced up against Cleveland. Not really the route that I want to go here. Last week against Atlanta, we're playing quarterbacks. We're going to play running backs against Atlanta pretty much all that we can. Andrew Luck going up against Buffalo. I kind of think that Buffalo is a better defense in real life and for fantasy than we're used to seeing. Indy's O-line a little bit, sketchy. They allow a lot of pressure on Luck, so it's going to be interesting to see the defenses once we get to them. But also, thinking of defenses, so thinking ahead, if Peterman is in play for Buffalo, if he's starting, if Josh Allen's elbow keeps him out in week 7, then Indy's defense becomes a fantastic play to me. Pick 6 is always on the board, and that's how you score the most points with your defense in fantasy. Tom Brady, only 6,100, but going up against Chicago in Chicago. Doesn't mean he can't succeed. It's just going to be a little bit tougher. Now we're getting into the range of players that I like for cash. Carson Wentz at 6K. Interesting. Cam Newton at 5,900 against Philly. Wide receivers have been torching Philly on the outside, though they do get a lot of pressure on the quarterback. Baker Mayfield against Tampa Bay, 5,800. I'm interested. Drew Brees against Baltimore, only 5,700. Baltimore, obviously an outdoor stadium, obviously weather. Drew Brees, somebody I like to play when he's at home. Stafford, kind of the same thing. Going to Miami. Miami plays slow. I need more plays from my quarterbacks to get more opportunities to score. Even though it's tied to efficiency, I would still want the opportunity to get more opportunities. Stafford, interested, but not super interested. Trubisky's done really well. This might be a good spot for him. Deshaun Watson, only 5,500 going against Jacksonville, though. Price down. DraftKings been very aggressive at pricing quarterbacks down and every position down this year when they play Jacksonville. We saw it last week with Ezekiel Elliott coming in at 7,000, his lowest price in over a year. But Joe Flacco might be the guy that I'm looking to here. Against New Orleans, their secondary has just been thrashed constantly, just flogged by opposing wide receivers. Joe Flacco, tough guy to play. Has a low floor sometimes, and by low floor, I mean like 12 points, but I'm willing to take the leap of faith at 5,400 with somebody who throws it as much as he does and is inefficient at stopping the pass as New Orleans has been in the secondary with Crawley at their wide receiver 2 spot. Their slot cornerback been injured, and there are talented plays, 3 talented wide receivers for Baltimore to throw to stay away from Lattimore if he's back this week in week 7. I think Joe Flacco might be the guy that I want to plug here. Looking at a couple of cheaper guys, Dak Prescott, 53. We saw his rushing upside come into play this week. You want Bortles in a bounce back spot? Fine. Sam Darnold going up against Minnesota. I don't know if I'm buying. too many weeks under 200 yards for me. Does he have a couple that are over? Yes. Did he look good against Indy's defense? Yes. They want to keep it on the ground with this kid. I don't know if they're going to be able to against Minnesota, but at home, especially, they're going to try and establish the run, and that's not something I want from a quarterback. So I'm going to plug Flacco and take the leap of faith against New Orleans and just trust what's been going on. And hope that this is that one random Joe Flacco 4-touchdown week that happens once a year and has been very difficult to project in the last few years, but it always comes at some time. Joe Flacco's been a GPP winner at some point during the year. If it's going to happen, it should happen against New Orleans and at home. Hopefully the weather helps us out there. We've always been members on this channel, on the podcasts that we do, and in my articles of being a part of Team Jam 'em In. For those of you who are new and don't know what Team Jam 'em In means, it means just take the good running backs. Just jam them in your lineup. I've spoken about this a few times. I personally want to try to get 70 touches out of my 2 running backs and my flex, which I typically use a running back as well in my cash game lineups. So my head-to-heads, 50-50s. I want as many touches as possible. Todd Gurley, like 20 to 25 to 30 touches every single week, averaging 31 fantasy points a game. Ezekiel Elliott, averaging 21 fantasy points a game. 25 touches against Jacksonville, 27, 29, 19 against Seattle, in Seattle. The only issue for me here is both of these are road conference games, but they're against good enough matchups that I can expect the volume from both of these guys. And if game flow doesn't go the way that we expect it to, it's very easy for them to pile up points in the pass game. They're both game flow independent backs. They're not going to be taken off the field for like a Theo Riddick type back, so to speak. They're not going to be taken off the field for a Duke Johnson type back if they get behind. That's going to usurp all the the pass game usage here. So let's see if we can find another running back that could be cheap enough to fit in with these 2 that I feel are on Team Jam 'em In. Sony Michel got a lot of volume, but no usage in the passing game. At home, I think I like Michel in this role in games that they're favored massively and against defenses that aren't as good. Chicago, a very good defense. I'm probably not going to play Sony Michel in cash this week. We'll see as the week goes on whether I believe he's tournament viable or not, but I think he's a home cash game play, a road fade for me. Latavius Murray with Cook out had a fantastic week. He was one of our X Factors on the Anti-Tinkercast on Twitch the last 45 minutes before lock. If you haven't been there, why not? You should come and be a part of that show. It's a good thing. You'd like it. The link is down below. In the notifications, click Show More in the description. You'll find it. I promise. You'll like it. So Latavius Murray, our X Factor last week, 24 carries, 1 catch, got a touchdown, paid off that massive salary. Against the Jets on the road, not sure I'm buying. Again, I want... if they're not pass game used running backs, I typically want them at home or in a ridiculously good matchup, which kind of brings us here. Carlos Hyde has been utilized tremendously by this coaching staff in Cleveland. Yes, you're going to look at this game and say, well, he only got 14 touches. But this is a game that they were down 30. You're not going to use your pounded out running back, your established the run guy, your goal line guy in those situations. The thing that does kind of bother me a little bit is his lack of targets, right? Duke Johnson, the pass catching back, he's had no more than 3 targets in any game this year. If he catches 1 or 2 balls, you just got to kind of consider that a bonus. The 5 touchdowns are extremely nice here. The 4.7 salary is what I'm really looking at. And assuming that we get 18 to 25 touches out of Carlos Hyde at 4,700, that gets us to our 70 projected targets or 70 projected touches from Gurley, Elliott, Hyde, and allows us to still fit guys in here at wide receiver. So let's just plug in our defense, see what we have left at wide receiver. Typically speaking, on the first look, we just plug a 3K defense. For now, I'm going to plug the Colts. Okay, we talked about them earlier. Assuming that Peterman is a quarterback, I'm going to want to have the Colts a lot this week in cash and tournaments, unless some other stuff opens up. So let's plug them first to see what goes on. In terms of wide receiver or tight ends, at the top, Zach Ertz, Probably tournament only for me for cash. I'm not going to look his way with him up at 7,000, but the targets have been outstanding. Plays against Carolina this week. They do have a good linebacking core. Gronkowski, priced down at only 6K. My issue with Gronk is not his greatness around the goal line, but he does only have 1 touchdown this year. Is always a candidate for 2 touchdowns, even in tough matchups. My issue is the volume, and he's not getting the same volume as guys that are under 4K. So why am I paying up for a tight end, paying an extra 2 or 3K that's not getting more volume? That's my issue. Eric Ebron has been getting volume. Does play Buffalo, though. Volume. He is priced at 5,400, which is right where he's been. I think he's priced accurately. I don't think there's much of a discount there. He needs a massive day to pay off salary. Jordan Reed got his 9 targets that we thought he'd get last week, but scored less than a point per target. That's not good. Jack Doyle's been out. Greg Olsen back. Only 4,400, but playing up against Philly, who's very good against the interior. Very good against the run. Very good putting pressure on the passer. Very good against tight ends. Not good against wide receivers. We'll see if there's any Carolina wide receivers to play. David Njoku, one of my favorites coming into the year, had a slow start, really picking it up recently with 3 straight double-digit days. Is priced up to 4,200. I think he's in play. I really do. But I think there's a couple other options that might be cheaper, one of which is O.J. Howard at 3,600. If he is healthy again, Jameis Winston at quarterback. We've already said Jameis Winston targets his tight ends 23% of the time historically over the last year or two. And when they get into the red zone, he targets his tight ends at a 33% clip. He does have 2 tight ends to target here. So we might be tilting if Brake gets into the end zone. But at 3,600, we don't need Howard to do much. And he's paid off 3,600. 3 of the 5 games that he's played this year. And this is a situation, a team that used to be a flow chart team, a team that gives up plays to tight ends. Howard last year showed some very good big playability, has shown it again this year with a 75-yard play here, a 35-yard play here. 20-plus yard catch in every single game except one this year. A huge target around the goal line and a big play type player. That leaves us with an average of 5,000. We said initially that we want a Baltimore wide receiver because of the issues that New Orleans has had. And this is a smaller slate than we're used to seeing. Where's New Orleans? There. Baltimore. Wide receivers. We got John Brown, who we were on last week, 5,700. We got Crabtree at 5,100, who's gotten a ton of targets all throughout the year. And John Brown gotten a ton of targets, all except last week. Also, you look at his air yards and where he is in standing in air yards on the season, always a big play type player, but he's priced up to 5,700. He's down from, he was not 6,600 last week. Why do they have that there? That's not his price. Anyway, 5,700. He was 5,600 or 5,500 last week. I think he sees a bounce back in targets this week. He does have a great matchup on the outside. As many snaps as he will avoid Lattimore and get Crawley, who's been the most attacked and most efficiently attacked wide cornerback in the league. They're also bad against the slot. Pardon me. Willie Snead at 4,000 in a revenge game. My chat always loves the narratives. In a revenge game, opening up some salary for us, big playability, getting targets. 7 targets minimum in each of the last 3 games, 5 catches minimum in each of the last 3 games, leaves us room for upside as his fantasy points have basically paid off this salary for 3 straight weeks without scoring a touchdown. He has a higher touchdown expectation this week going up against Baltimore, or going up against New Orleans. Kind of like Willie Snead this week at 4K, giving us 5,500 for our last 2 wide receivers. Now I have a want and I have a need. I need to get targets. Nobody's done a better job at getting those than Adam Thielen. I don't know that I can afford Thielen with this build that I have currently. I'd have to come down at defense. I'd have to come down at tight end. I think you can fit Thielen if you want. He's just been tremendous. We knew that his skill set and the way he is utilized by Minnesota matched Kirk Cousins perfectly coming into this year. Nobody foresaw this. He is essentially the best wide receiver in the league, with Antonio Brown not having his typical year. Thielen averaging 28.5 DraftKings points a game. Just insane. Thomas had been great the first 3 weeks, had a big taper down the last 2. They are coming off of a bye. Going to be interested to see if they try and work Michael Thomas back into the mix, though this is a tough matchup. Mike Evans against Cleveland. High volume, but for 7,700, I think we can do better. Steph Diggs, same situation going up against the Jets. 5 targets last week after 4 straight double-digit target days. This could be a good bounce-back spot for him, and you get a massive discount over Thielen going down to Diggs. Brandon Cooks, though, I think is going to be consistent. We do have to monitor Cooper Kupp, coming off of 1 week where he was concussed, another week where he was carted off the field and then came back because apparently he's not human. If Cooks, if Cooks can do what we think Cooks can do, which is get behind a defense. San Francisco does give up a lot of really long plays. Hasn't really had as big a game as I think he can have. He is a 40-point fantasy day waiting to happen, but he's got to catch a 60-yard touchdown. Okay? I think he is a great GPP play. I think he's in play for cash. I kind of think I prefer Woods if Kupp is out. More red zone usage. I think he might take over that Kupp role when they get into the red zone if Kupp does not play this week. Consistent 7,000 salary, consistent targets, consistent catches, consistent usage, 100-yard upside, touchdown upside. I'll take him for 7K, leaving me 4,000 for my last wide receiver. I still like these guys in this range. Hopkins squaring off against Jacksonville, did great against them last year. Don't know if I can take 2 straight weeks of running Hopkins into a brick wall, but I don't think he's out of play. Jeffrey has been tremendous since coming back, getting into the end zone 3 times in 3 games. If you want to come down off Woods to go after him, I'm fine with that as well. Don't think I want to double up on Baltimore wide receivers. Josh Gordon, seeing a ton of targets last night. Is that going to continue? Was robbed of a touchdown as well by a pass interference call. Funchess going up against Philly. I've said we want to attack Philly with guys on the outside. 5,300 presents you with value if you want to go with a little more if you want to go with a little more balance at wide receiver, going with 3 kind of 4 to 5,500 guys instead of going with Woods and then a cheaper one. I could get on board with that as well. Marvin Jones Jr. against Miami. They play a little bit too slow for me. Taylor Gabriel, though, 7,700. Getting usage, guys. Has big playability, but is getting usage at home against New England, who's given up a ton of points. I think he's interesting. We might be able to fit him. We might have to change 1 or 2 things around. But here's where I'm really going this week. We talked about Quincy Enunwa and how great he was doing earlier in the year in this Jets offense. He was being utilized in the slot. And look how many targets he was getting. 10, 11, 8, 8. They then announced that he was going to be moved outside. And I said on our podcast that, look, if they move him outside, I don't think he's going to get these targets because Darnold's only taking shots outside the hashes down the field. And Enunwa not really a down-the-field guy. He's a pepper with targets guy around the line of scrimmage, low ADOT type stuff. So he was moved out of the slot. The gentleman who was moved into the slot is Jermaine Kearse. Never excited, really, to play Jermaine Kearse, right? But if he's going to take over that Enunwa role from earlier in the season, and he's going to get 10 targets like he did last week against Indy, if he's going to get 7, 8, 9 targets in this offense, they're easily convertible, right? These aren't down the field throws that you can't get. These are just pitch and catch type stuff. So if he's going to play the slot at 4,100 and get himself 7, 8, 9 targets from Sam Darnold, I don't mind that at all. I kind of like this lineup. Flacco, Gurley, Elliott, Snead, Woods, Kearse, Howard, Hyde. I got my 70 touches. I could get, what, out of those wide receivers? Maybe 25 plus targets. O.J. Howard, we're hoping that his big body falls into the end zone, or maybe he acts like just rumbles down the sideline on a 70-yard catch like he's done a few times already in his short career. Colts defense, if Peterman's starting. If he's not, you can go much cheaper. That's my first look, guys, and I kind of like it this week. Thank you for joining. Appreciate y'all being here once again. Subscribe button's right there. Check out another one of my videos right here. And we'll catch up to you next time. Bye, guys.